After more than 40 years of writing and establishing himself as one of the most influential screenwriters in Hollywood, William Goldman remains firm in his belief that in movie making, nobody knows anything. But he must know something about writing screenplays. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, Marathon Man, The Princess Bride, Misery, all films that have made us appreciate the importance of a good story, the craft of telling it well. I am pleased to have my friend William Goldman here to talk about the craft of screenwriting and the state of the movie business. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here. Nobody knows anything.
Yes, it's very important to know that we all know that.
That's going to be on your gravestone. It's right there on the tombstone.
Absolutely.
And when did you say it and what did you mean?
I wrote a book years ago called Adventures in the Screen Trade. And one of the things about Hollywood is they don't know what they're doing. That's okay, most of us don't. Yeah. They make a lot of money and they have to essentially make us think they do know what they're doing. In other words, Warren Buffett does not know what the stock market's going to do tomorrow. So they have their shibboleths. They have these nut reasons about what movies will work and what movie won't work. I was so thrilled with the commercial success of First Wives Club this year because it flew in the face of all their wisdom. It opened at the wrong time, early fall. It had these people in it that they didn't want to see, these quote, quote, used up stars. Right. It was a huge hit. Now their wisdom is, yes, there is a market, but only for those three women.
That's what they're saying.
As if you made
Meryl Streep had been in there, it would not have been a big film.
And Cher, it wouldn't have been a big. That's right. I mean, they have to have these things because the only reason First Wives Club got made, it's not a masterpiece, was Sherry Lansing's a woman. And Sherry, I think there's who's the head of Paramount. Right. I think there's a world of stuff out there they don't make. They want to make these ghastly testosterone Sylvester Stallone movies like Judge Dredd and lose a lot of money. That's what they want to do.
Well, but do you feel the same way about Eraser that Arnold Schwarzenegger made?
No, I don't think they all stink. I just think basically they have a faith that those bloodbath action pictures will save them. And all they do is get more and more expensive, kill more and more people.
Well, they have that faith because they know it lives beyond these shores.
It does.
And it plays well in Japan.
As I once wrote, mouth breathers in Asia like them very much. Stupid young men get off on the violence. That's one of the things they think. It's true. But I think right now, for me, I'm only talking about Hollywood films. I'm not talking about Fargo. I'm not talking about Lone Star. I'm not talking about English Patient. I'm not talking about Shine. I'm not talking about Emma. Because those are, in essence, whether they come out of a studio or not, in essence, independent films. I'm talking about, I'm a child of the 30s and 40s. I never saw a foreign film till I was in my 20s. I like Hollywood films, and they stink. The quality of them is just terrible. The things that the studios are making.
And why is that?
I think because costs are so high that they basically are terrified to make a lot of the stuff that they used to make. I will tell you a very quick story. I was doctoring a great disaster. Wonderful idea for a movie, Last Action Hero with Schwarzenegger. It was Shane Black. It was
doctoring meaning that the script was in trouble and so somebody said,
I had been brought in to do what I could. Shane Black had also been brought in to do the same thing. We were working together. And Shane Black's like 30 and just sold his last screenplay for $4 million and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we were in the middle of this and he said, do you know why I envy you? And I said, I can't think of one reason. And he said, because you got to write movies in the 60s. And I thought, yeah, I did. That was before Jaws changed everything in 1975. In the 60s, you could make movies that weren't expected to make fortunes. So the variety of what was open to the studios was much, much wider now. Because now, if you want a star, it's $20 million, and a star you don't want is 10. So you're stuck with these huge costs, so they'll think, well, how can we amortize our costs? We'll make a movie that it will be less challenging, shall we say.
There's a guy who's a new film critic for Esquire magazine who I don't know, but one of the things that brought my attention to what he writes is he said Steven Spielberg, as good as he is, has been bad for the movie business.
He wrote a piece, I read it.
Do you agree with the piece?
Well, it's interesting. You know, he said that Lucas and Spielberg destroyed Hollywood, the point being the real reality is it's not Lucas and Spielberg who are very brilliant and gifted. Right. It's the fact that their movies were successful. And the fact that when there's a success out there, since nobody knows anything, what they try and do is copy the success.
Well, but you just said that after Jaws, which happened to be made by Steven Spielberg, right, nothing was the same.
Nothing was the same because Jaws made more money more quickly than all those greedy studio heads out there dreamed possible. So suddenly I thought, guess what? Something will be bigger. Guess what? Star Wars was. That wasn't going to be. E.T. was bigger. There's going to be something bigger than E.T. You know, Independence Day 2, when they figure out what it's going to be out, is going to be gigantic.
But let's go back to your dilemma. I mean, you are a very gifted screenwriter, and I don't have to...
I've been doing it a long time.
I know you have. and you've learned well, and not everything you do is great, but you've done some very good screenwriting.
Thank you very much.
You know a lot of good people. English Patient is a movie you liked, right?
There are a lot of wonderful movies, but they're not...
Why can't you... I mean, I would assume that everybody in Hollywood would be proud to have made that film.
Now?
Yes, now.
It was turned down.
I know, it was by Fox.
Yeah.
But, and Miramax came along and found $25 million, right, and the rest is history. Yeah. But here's what I don't get. They would all be proud to make that film now. Why aren't they making that film? What, is it just that The English Patient is an exception and it's unlikely you're going to hit that jackpot?
Well, maybe. I think basically Hollywood has always been torn between art and commerce. They really want to make crap, except during the 2 weeks around the Oscars. Everybody would like to win an Oscar. It's a big deal out there. It's a big deal, period. They want to do that. Sure. But in general, if they make a lot of movies that are very prestigious and win a lot of prizes and do no business, they're all going to get fired. The thing that I've written about studio executives is they share one thing in common with baseball managers. They wake up every morning of the world knowing they're going to get fired. It's just a matter of, as long as they can last, they can get a better severance deal. Yeah. So they want to basically have as good a track record as they can before they get humiliated. And the best way to do that is to have big star vehicles that cost a lot of money and pray.
Well, why is that true? I mean, because of all those guys that have done that and gotten fired. I mean, Canton was the most recent, was he not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There'll be others very shortly, but I mean, there always are. But I mean, Canton certainly very recently, and I think. But it's hard to pick public taste. It's hard. When I give you the Charlie Rose story, if I'm a studio, and you give me that, are people going to want to see that in 3 years? Because that's essentially how long it takes usually for a movie to hit the screen.
That's the toughest
thing.
It's
very hard to pick public taste at that time. You think a star is hot, by the time you get your movie out, he's had 2 stiffs. I mean, it's very hard to know. What they have put their faith in stars. My problem with stars is Baryshnikov is a star in the stage. If you put Pavarotti as a star, I don't care. He could be singing Andrew Lloyd Webber. He could be singing Mozart. He will pack the place. The problem with movie stars is they don't pack the place all the time. Sometimes there's no interest in them at all, but you have to pay them as if there were. There was a time when some stars took less and took a percentage of the profits. That doesn't happen anymore. Now everybody gets... The whole deal has become so financially grotesque that they are cursed into making, for the most part, the studios, movies that they hope will do $100 million. Most movies don't.
So it's all a giant roulette wheel and nobody knows nothing.
Well, they really don't. I mean, one of the things about screenwriting is it's very important. I work a lot with young writers, and one of the things I try and tell them in the very beginning is that I don't know what I'm doing as a screenwriter. By which I mean, it's a question I started asking people. I think the most brilliant person I've ever met is Stephen Sondheim, the songwriter.
You do?
I do. He's quite remarkable. He's just so smart. He just sees things differently. And I was talking with him once, and I said, do you know what you're doing? And he said, do you mean funny, sad, long, short? I said, no, on a very deep level. Do you know what you're doing? And he said, after a pause, he said, of course not. If I did, all my songs would be wonderful. If I knew what I was doing as a screenwriter, I've written 2 movies that I really like. I like The Princess Bride, and I like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Those are neat as far as I'm concerned. Everything I've written isn't that good. If I knew what I was doing, they would be. If I can do it once, theoretically, I should be able to do it again. It's very hard to do. It's a miracle when a good movie happens.
Let me move to the other subject. Clint Eastwood was on the program with me.
Yes.
He is
he's a freak, isn't he?
Yeah.
Marvelous.
It's just amazing.
I've only met 2. Newman's the other one.
Yeah.
They seem totally unscathed by the madness of the business.
Exactly.
I don't know how they escaped. I was just watching. I have a movie that Mr. Eastwood directed.
I know, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Coming out in February, and I've seen it, and I think
it's
you'll
called
like it.
Absolute Power.
Absolute Power. Yeah, it's really terrific. But watching him work is different. I've been on movie sets for a long, long time, and you go on a movie set and you think, it doesn't always have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be the star in the dressing room and the producer screaming and the director getting eaten by the studio. It can all be a bunch of decent professionals trying to do their best. The question is, why isn't it? I don't know. It's because that's what he wants. It's very quiet. It's just a marvelous place to be, just to watch him work, because it's very quick, very quiet. You have questions, so-and-so, and it's like a real job. It's not like the madness that went on with Mirror of Two Faces in New York when, all the crazy stories we all heard. It wasn't.
About coloring the trees and all that.
There was no ego run rampant. It's just basically his whole theory is that he feels that the pressure is on him, so you shouldn't feel any. Let's do the best we can.
What do you think of her?
Who?
Streisand.
I think she's a phenomenal singer. I've always thought she was a phenomenal singer. And I think that she has beaten the public into believing her greatness. She wants it. I was talking earlier with somebody. On Princess Bride, I really thought Robin Wright, who was the title role, was going to be, she was 20. I thought Robin Wright was going to be the biggest star in the world. She was beautiful, she was gifted, wonderful, wonderful talent. And she isn't. And that's because she doesn't want to be a big movie star. She turns down everything. She was in Forrest Gump, it was her first hit. And I remember her saying that she was going to be the lead with Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, which was a huge hit. But she got pregnant. And so she dropped out. Another actress played the part. And I remember thinking, Barbra Streisand does not get pregnant at such a time. She is absolutely obsessed with her fame and her stardom and her gifts and her career. And her talents are so great, she makes us go along with her. There's nobody else quite like her.
Her talents as a singer, as an actress, as a director?
Whatever, as a force. I mean, she's quite remarkable. Yeah. I mean, I don't know her, but, you know.
Yeah. Back to Eastwood.
Yes.
Here's the story I heard. That when he first saw the screenplay and was sent to him, he liked it. And he said, but you want me to play the Secret Service agent?
Yeah, he wanted it was a detective. You don't want
and a detective, the detective. I want to be the thief.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
Rewrite the damn screenplay so that the star, the main character, is the thief, and I'll do it. Correct or not?
Well, he said, I'll read it again. And I couldn't do it. And I was at a Nick game with Tony Gilroy, who's a wonderful young screenwriter, wrote Dolores Claiborne, Extreme Measures. I was whining to him. And Tony had read the first draft, and he said, oh, he's right, the thief's the only best character anyway. So Tony essentially saved me. Tony showed me how to do it. I absolutely couldn't do it because I'd been so obsessed with that the guy had died so fabulously halfway through, and then suddenly, zap, I didn't know how to keep my life. Then suddenly, once Tony opened it up for me, I could write it. But it was quite remarkable. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done.
You got 3 books out now. William Goldman, 5 screenplays. All the President's Men.
Right.
Redford.
Right. Fabulous film figure. Wonderful director.
Does he, and created Sundance and done a lot of other things beyond being a movie star?
Absolutely.
Is he too dedicated to, in a sense, not risking the Redford image?
I don't know. I was looking at a picture of Mel Gibson on the cover of Premiere. And Mel Gibson's right now very, very, very big. And he's, you know, with Braveheart and with Ransom, he's on top of the heap, etc. And he had a facial expression not dissimilar to something that Redford used. And I thought, gee, what happens is to these people, you know, Spencer Tracy, the last 15 years of his life, would not wear a part that required makeup. He hated the artifice of being an actor in movies so much. Something happens to actors after they've done it for a while, after they've gotten the adulation, after they've gotten rich. Remember, these guys aren't rich. Suddenly they are rich. They never have to, their grandchildren never have to work again. It's a big adjustment for them. Suddenly, I think what happens is they get tired of doing anything that pushes them particularly. Maybe something will come along that will capture them. I think Redford's become a marvelous director. I wish he directed more. But I think that, you know, are you saying has he challenged himself as an actor in the last years? I don't know. I'm not privy to that thought. He must think he's doing parts he wants to do. But I mean, ultimately, I think they get bored with it. It's a phony life. It's great for getting a table at Spago. But I mean, I wrote a line once, which was,
you can get a table at Spago.
I will quote you a line. I said, stars have no friends. They have business acquaintances and serfs. And that's the life that they lead. Now, it's a difficult life. They're surrounded, most of them have entourages. Eastwood has no entourage, obviously. Newman has no.
Well,
it comes along. I mean, it's different. They don't need that. But these guys basically they're all very bright people. They may not be school bright. It's hard to be a movie star.
If William Goldman, 5 screenplays, All the President's Men is here, Magic is here, Harper is here, Maverick is here, The Great Waldo Pepper is here, 4 screenplays with essays. Marathon Man with Sir Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, his favorite. The Princess Bride, his second favorite. And Misery, and also The Ghost in the Darkness, a screenplay by William Goldman. This money for this is going to charity, or is that?
For the books, yeah. I think it all goes to charity. Motion Picture and Television Fund.
I want you to come back, because I deliberately have not talked about screenplays per se and the craft of writing screenplays. I'd love for you to do that sometime.
Good.
This is not as bad as it might be.
No, you're right. I got through it.
Yes, you did. William Goldman, screenwriter par excellence, with 3 books, including screenplays and essays about screens. We thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time. See you then.